What is up? Happy Saturday. Welcome on into Let's Bet at Orange Bar here with my two faves, Jared Smith, Alex
Aw.
Glaze. Don't tell Mark Zinno I said that because he'll be really sad
Yeah.
about it. Happy Saturday, guys. AG, how are you doing today?
Feeling pretty good. I woke up like Jared today, not really knowing what day it is. It's been rainy, it feels like, for the past month. It's just been rainy. I haven't seen the sun in a long time. I don't know what day it is, but we're feeling good. Feeling good today.
What about you,
Yeah.
Jared? Happy Saturday.
Happy, what day is it? Friday, Saturday?
Saturday. The
Tomorrow,
weekend,
Sunday?
baby. The freaking
Is it a
weekend,
Monday?
baby. About to have you some fun.
All right,
So-
all right.
First of all, where the hell is spring, New York? What the hell? I'm in Vegas and Arizona for a week, and I'm all tan, and I feel great about the sun and everything, and then I come back, and I don't think I've seen the sun since I've come back to New York, maybe one day. So I'd appreciate if spring figured itself out. Today is a pretty cool day in sports. It's kind of like a Nexus event. We get the Kentucky Derby. We get basketball playoffs. We get NHL playoffs. We have 18 baseball games, but I just told you about the weather, so I'm expecting many of them to get postponed or delayed or whatever. We've also got a fight tonight, UFC. It is a stacked day of sports. 1 hour is not enough, but we'll try our best to get you all you need.
Absolutely. Stacked Sports Day. We're going to go through it all, starting with our Better Up segment, talking a little MLB action. As Jared was saying, 18 games on the card tonight. We have Ron Wood coming in from, I think he's in Spain right now, to break down the Kentucky Derby with us, talk about some of the favorites, how to bet the Kentucky Derby if you've never done it before. And a quick plug, I've been to 4 Kentucky Derbies before. It's the most amazing event to actually go to in person. Highly recommend for anyone that hasn't been to go check out a Kentucky Derby. It's so much fun. And also a fun story about that. But we'll get into that in a little bit. We have NBA Morning Radar, 2 NBA games on the slate tonight. We had 2 yesterday after having a day off on Thursday. So we're going to break those games down. NHL Ice Picks. It's like day 4 of the NHL playoffs, day 6 maybe. I don't know. I can't even keep these days straight anymore. Just like Alex. He has no clue what day it is this morning. And then we can't end without our Pickswise 3-star play of the day and our best bets of the day. So without further ado, guys, let's get into it. Let's bet it. Better Up. We talk about the YRFIs and NRFIs. Yes, run first inning. No run first inning. It's a new trendy bet. Everyone's doing it. YRFIs went 5-4 yesterday. Now on the season, they're 197 and 193. If you bet all YRFIs, you're down 17.72 units. If you bet all NRFIs, you're still down even more, like triple that, 48.46 units. Baltimore has had 5 straight no-run first innings. So, Alex, maybe you're, kind of pushing them there being in Baltimore right now. But
No.
they're up
I'm not
11.
Don't ever associate me with the Orioles. Don't do that.
I'm sorry, only the Ravens, not the Orioles. But if you've bet their NRFIs, you're up 11.26 units this season. They've only scored 2 times in the first inning in 26 games. Pretty interesting. So that could be a trend to look for. Jared, do you have any YRFIs or NRFIs heading into tonight or today?
I do have a couple for today. I will add to that great intro that it's not even close. The highest units up or down for any team is 9, and then the Orioles at 11.5 basically. So it's there's a gap between the Orioles and just how bad they've been in the YRFI category. They've been great in the NRFI category. They are king NRFI. Baltimore is the king of all the NRFIs this year. So if you're betting on Orioles YRFI, I would probably rethink that strategy. I do have 2 tonight that I'm looking at. The Orioles are not involved in either of them. They're both kind of later games. Actually, no, one of them's an afternoon game, but it's West Coast, and then the other one's a West Coast game that's late. So we'll go in chronological order. We'll go Cardinals, Giants first. This one was plus 130 over at MGM. And usually when it's plus 130 to the YRFI, there's some, 2 aces on the mound. And I wouldn't put the Logan Webb or Steven Matz in ace category. So you've got lesser pitchers on the mound. Even though Matz is 5-0 to the NRFI this season. And you're like, well, wait a minute. That's, why are you betting on his YRFI if he hasn't allowed a run in the first inning this year? Well, his career ERA in the first inning is 5.16. So I'm not going to take a 5-game sample size from this season I'm going to look a little bit deeper into his career numbers. And I think in the first inning, he hasn't been the greatest starting pitcher. So we'll lean on that. Logan Webb, 3-2 to the NRFI this year. So he's allowed a run in the first inning twice this season. And again, I'm banking on some regression for Steven Matz. The Cardinals are positive, 15-11 to the YRFI this season, up 4 units. The Giants negative, 11-15, minus 3.49. But I think plus 130 is a very good price. That usually is the price we get when there's 2 aces on the hill. I'll take a stab today with the Cardinals and the Giants. Also, late night, this is the West Coast Pacific Northwest game. Tampa Bay at Seattle. I got plus 125 over at Westgate. These teams are a combined 31-23 to the YRFI this season, up almost 8 units. Marco Gonzalez, that's the bad side of this. He's 3-2 to the NRFI, 2-0 at home, but he's allowed a run in the first inning twice this year. Drew Rasmussen pitches for Tampa, and he's 5-0 to the NRFI this year, but his ERA on the road is 4.15 compared to 1.8 at home. So I'm hoping the road splits will catch up to Drew eventually, and he'll give up a run in the first tonight. Or Marco will. And I think plus 125 for, again, not aces by any stretch of the imagination, Rasmussen and Gonzalez. I think that's a good price for that one. So we'll go Tampa Bay, Seattle, St. Louis, San Francisco, both pretty heavy plus money prices tonight with the YRFIs.
I love the YRFIs. Alex, just because you're in Baltimore, you're not a fan of the Baltimore Orioles? Like, who's your team?
No. Baseball, I mean, baseball's a very regional sport, so it's tough to root for teams if it's a team not in your home market. So growing up, not an Orioles fan. I actually grew up a Yankees fan. Mom's family from New York, grandfather, a big Yankees guy. The only games I would go to growing up would be Yankees O's games at Camden Yards. But that being said, that was kind of like the, not Homer, but, what am I trying to say? The Yankees were winning a lot back then, so it kind of was lame to be a Yankees fan. You had to be like a
You're jumping on the bandwagon.
Yeah, I had like the Jeter jersey and like the elementary school and everything.
I feel like everybody had a Jeter jersey, even if you weren't a Yankees fan. Like, I think I had.
Yeah, but it wasn't cool. But then the real moment that I decided that the Orioles were never going to get a fan out of me, I don't know if you've heard the Cal Ripken story here, but Cal Ripken denied me an autograph when I was like 6 years old. But yeah,
no.
7 years old. So from that moment on, I decided that the O's and I were never going to mesh. So Cal Ripken, big compiler,
okay,
for my last day. But
yeah, I know that's what these players need to know. Sign the autograph. Sign the baseball. It takes 2 seconds.
It was just me and Cal in the doctor's office. I wasn't bothering him.
Yeah.
Listen.
And he didn't sign it for you. That's really sad.
Turn me down.
That's really sad.
Turn me down.
Okay, so that you're not betting on the Orioles today. Who are you betting on the MLB card?
All right, so we get a doubleheader with the Dodgers and Cubs today. I'm looking at game 1 with Clayton Kershaw on the bump against Drew Smyly. You guys are talking NRFI, YRFI. I have not touched a no-run first inning or yes-run first inning since Drew Smyly broke my heart against the Braves last week when it was 2 outs in the bottom of the first, and then he just decided to serve one up to Austin Riley, and Austin Riley sent one 500 feet out of the park, it felt like. So Drew Smyly, I'm fading him today. I'm looking at the Dodgers on the run line, not because of Drew Smyly, but this is a Cubs team that's really struggling. Lost 4 of their last 5 games, really struggling at the plate, only scoring 6 runs during that stretch. Going against Kershaw, who's actually off to a pretty strong start in this season. 7 or more strikeouts in 3 of his 4 starts this year. Cubs kind of middle of the road against lefty. So I'm looking at the Dodgers here. I think this is a good spot for them on the run line. Little juicy, minus 128 on FanDuel, but I think this is a good spot in game 1 of that series. Doubleheader today for the Dodgers.
Yeah, I don't mind you laying the 28 cents for that. I'm a big Dodgers fan at this point. They're solid. Cubs aren't very good. I actually went to a Cubs game on Tuesday at Wrigley. I've never experienced such it wouldn't stop misting the whole time. It was like a mist fest. I'm like, this would be actually kind of pleasant. It was cold, but like whatever. If it just wasn't misting, I left and my hair was like straight when I got there. And it was curly, like full on curly when I left. I was like, what is going on? Anyways, whatever. But yeah, I don't mind laying the 28 cents with the Dodgers. I actually might tail you on that one on the run line. Jared, I see you have a couple pitching props here with Valdez, yeah?
Yeah, we are doubling down today, and I do
Double
this
down,
sometimes.
baby.
Double down, just like a little blackjack hand. You want to do, what you guys do? You guys split when you're playing blackjack? What do you split? You split
Yes.
eights, split fives,
Always.
split four, depending on what the dealer's holding.
Wait. Speaking of splitting aces, I saw on Twitter there was a guy. Did you see the 3 aces? Got 21 on all of them, and then the dealer got 21.
That's awesome. That's
The
awesome.
dealer got 21.
Oh, well, the last part isn't awesome. So I used to play blackjack a lot. I don't play it anymore. I don't know. It's like it's not my game, but it is a fun game. I don't knock anyone who plays blackjack. It can be incredibly exciting, especially when you're splitting aces or you're splitting 2 cards against the dealer showing a 5 and you bet boom, you get the paint that you need. I'm hoping for some paint today with Framber Valdez. And so this is one of those matchups where I looked at the numbers and I was like, wow, the numbers are pretty favorable, I think, for him against this Detroit lineup. And then I looked at the projections and I saw, all right, well, he's projected to go over his outs prop. He's projected to go over his K prop. And I don't love doing this because, again, you are exposing yourself to one bad inning that screws up 2 bets. But I feel confident that at least we're going to split the pair here. Because to me, Valdez against this Detroit lineup is a very plus matchup. Now, Framber's had a really slow start, which last year he was one of the better pitchers in this Astros rotation. This year, not so much. Just a 6.49 Ks per 9, which is the lowest in his career, and the highest walks per 9 in his career, 4.78. So we're buying low a little bit here on Framber Valdez. The one thing that is positive for me, his expected ERA is 3.19, which is lower than his actual ERA, which is about 3.5. So he's pitching better than I think the numbers indicate. But I'd like to see the strikeout numbers go up and the walk numbers go down. Well, here's the good news. His career K through 9 splits at home, 9.6, on the road, 7.5. And he's had 4 of his first 5 starts on the road at Toronto, at Texas, at the Angels, at Arizona, and then a home start against the Angels. So he's been a road warrior so far this year. I think some home cooking tonight will do him well against a awful Tigers lineup that was completely shut down last night by Luis Garcia. 9 strikeouts and 7.
You don't need to shit on my Tigers like that as much as you are. You know what? It's okay.
These are just the numbers. I
agree. I mean, you look at the Astros. The Astros have won 8 of the last 10 games. Houston pitching has allowed 2 runs or fewer in 6 of the last 7 games. So, and they're both bullpens, I will say, though, are outstanding for both teams, both Astros and Tigers. So at least they got like a decent rotation, but just offensively, they don't have much going. Okay, those are our MLB picks for today. You love it.
Yeah.
18 games on the slate. Take a look at the Doppler radar because I'm a huge fan of that to see which games might be rained out, which games might not be rained out, how weather is affecting some of these games. It's going to be interesting to see how they play out. We're going to say goodbye to AG for a second, bring him back in for NBA and NHL. But right now, we got the Kentucky Derby going on. I mean, races start in about 30 minutes or so. Let's bring in horse racing expert Ron Wood, joining us from the Racing Post in the UK. Let's bring him on in. Okay, where the heck in the world are you right now? Are you in Spain? Are you in the UK? Where are you in the world right now?
I'm actually in Spain at the moment, at my parents' place. So usually I live in the UK, but in Spain right now. So that's why the sun's shining in the window. So don't always get that in the UK.
What time of the day is it right now for you?
It's a good question. I lose track here. It's 4:15. So it's it's all sorts of different time differences going on with the US.
Midnight
UK,
Eastern or a midnight local time race start for you today is going to be. You have to take a little coffee, a little caffeine to stay up for this one.
Exactly. Huh? Yeah, I think it's going to be a late one, but So no, looking forward to it. It's going to be a good day.
It is going to be a good day. The Kentucky Derby is honestly one of my favorite events. I look forward to it every year. Tell us how you kind of first got started in the racing industry in general and how long you've been picking horses.
Okay, yeah. So I've always had a keen interest in American racing, right from that was almost like my first sort of venture into racing. Fortunate enough to go on sort of family vacations to the US as a kid, and usually Florida. So we'd sort of hit the tracks there, sort of mainly Tampa and Gulfstream Park. But so right from when I was a kid, I was sort of going racing in America. And even when I was sort of back home, I remember staying up late to watch the Breeders' Cup, and there always used to be like a highlights TV package on quite late back home, maybe midnight, something like that, and they put like an hour-long show on, and I always remember staying up for that. And and actually, my dad went on to train racehorses at one point as well in back in the UK. So I even had a bit of experience sort of working in the racing yard after sort of school and so on. And then from that, I was lucky enough once I left school, I got a job straight away working for the Racing Post, which was really lucky. And I've been there ever since. And so that was 2001. And I've been working for the Post, and and I've been working on like previewing the Kentucky Derby and so on since I think 2009. So it's gone quite quickly all the same. It doesn't feel like it was sort of 2001 that I sort of started, but
time usually flies when you're having fun, Ron. So
exactly,
that's what they say. That's what they say.
For our Pickswise audience, Racing Post is the spotlight sister website of what we do here in the U.S. It's got a great name for this particular event too, and long history of in Europe being kind of the same, the Pickswise version of what takes place overseas. So you've had a ton of experience doing this. And when I look at a Kentucky Derby race, you're talking about Gulfstream, Tampa, Santa Anita, a lot of these other tracks. What makes the Derby different than just a regular, race number one over at Gulfstream on a random Tuesday compared to what we're going to see today at Churchill Downs?
Yeah, I mean, so the first thing to mention really is the field size. So there's going to be 20 horses in the starting gate, and that's, a typical race in the US would probably be 6 or 7 runners, or so 20 is a unique experience for these horses, and they'll never race in a 20-runner field again. And also the distance is new to them, so it's 10 furlongs, a mile and a quarter, and normally, and as they're sort of building up to this, so they'd be running over shorter distances, and this is the first time they'll tackle this distance. So it's kind of survival of the fittest in a way. You've got to have speed to be able to hold your position in a field that big, but you've got to have the stamina as well. So it's a great test of a true champion if you can win the race. It's quite unique.
You look at a guy like Bob Baffert, right? So one of the most infamous trainers for people that don't know of all time. I was actually there for the 2018 Kentucky Derby when Justify won. He had another horse in 2020 win, Authentic. He's suspended this year. Will not have a horse in the Derby. Is there another trainer, Rob, at this point that we should really keep an eye on?
Yeah, so it's a good point. For me, the trainer to look at is Tim Yakteen, who has taken over the 2 Baffert horses. So Bob Baffert, had he not been suspended, would have had 2 horses in this race. Those 2 have transferred to a trainer called Tim Yakteen. And from a handicapping perspective, I'm going to sort of consider that not a lot is going to have changed in the way these horses are prepared. And the reason being, this new trainer trains at Santa Anita like Baffert. He's a former assistant to Baffert, and I kind of think that the horses were ticking along nicely as they were, and they looked good prospects. So I don't imagine that the new trainer is going to have changed a lot. So from a handicapping perspective, I'm kind of treating them like Baffert horses, as if they were still even with a new guy. But I'm going to treat it almost like it's when I look back at the trends and so on, and Baffert, such a formidable record in the race. I'm kind of thinking, I'm looking at these with one eye that they used to be trained by him. It wasn't long ago that they left him, so he has been training them to a point. So so I think Tim Yakteen is the guy to look at this year. Yeah,
Baffert doesn't have a horse in the race, but let's be honest, his influence will be felt on this race. I mean, I'm pretty sure one of the media rooms is like named after him. So like he's going to have a presence at Churchill Downs, even though he's locked up in this legal battle. And when you look at Messier, that's the horse that one of my Twin Spires guy, by the way, we have a column on Pickswise.com right now previewing the race with some insight from the Twin Spires head odds maker, who, if you're familiar with Twin Spires, they are the sports book that operates out Churchill Downs. So what better place to get information from than literally the source? And he is in line with your Messier pick. He said he looked great in warm-ups. And to me, when I close my eyes and try to think who's going to be at the podium at the end of the rainbow here, Bob Baffert won't be, but I kind of think one of his horses will be, Ron. And I think Messier would be that horse. And, oh, by the way, he's named after Mark Messier. I'm a big Rangers fan. I know that's a bad reason to bet on a horse based on the name. But you get these little things that kind of point you in the direction. And I think Messier would be the pick that I would make right now if I had to pick just one horse to win this race.
Yeah, absolutely. He's the horse. I'm really keen on him. The more I look at it, the more it's a 20-runner race, so you can't be overly confident. But I am really strong on this horse, and I think he's got an awful lot going for him. As we said, looking at the sort of Baffert angle that he used to be there, and as I said, I think he's going to be being prepared similarly. Baffert had the first pass to the post in this race 7 times. Medina Spirit got disqualified subsequently, so 6 wins, but effectively he's had the first pass to the post 7 times, and I mean, I was looking back there. I think it would have been 8. There was a horse in 2017. He had a horse called Mastery, who looked great around Santa Anita, and he got injured. I think in that race. Actually, he won his prep race. I think he'd have won the Kentucky Derby in 2017. So you're looking at 7, 8 wins in the race for sort of these connections. And I think Messier matches up really well with some of the best that the trainers sent out, or the previous trainer had for the race. I mean, you look at last year when he had Medina Spirit as the first past the post. Medina Spirit was a relatively sort of cheap purchase, and he kind of achieved way more than you might have expected when he was first bought. And even Medina Spirit, he wasn't the best horse in the Baffert barn at the time. They had a horse called Life is Good, who had absolutely hammered Medina Spirit back at Santa Anita. He got injured, so Medina Spirit sort of rocked up, and no one really expected a lot. They jumped him out the gates and went to the front, and he stayed there. I think Messier is a higher caliber horse than a Medina Spirit, who was a first past the post. And I think they're going to ride it. In recent years, it's been a trend from the connections to make use of the horse's speed, and I think Messier's got a lot of speed. And I don't, on paper, there are others that can go forward, but I'm not sure that any will be able to match Messier. I think they'll jump him out in the style of the others in recent years. John Velazquez, who has ridden a couple of the Baffert horses who finished first past the post, he's on this horse. I think they'll jump him out the gates, have him handy. There is a horse from the UAE in the race, Summer is Tomorrow, who has got speed. It might be that Messier has to sort of sit off him, but I do think Messier can control the speed. Even if he doesn't lead, he'll be to the outside of Summer is Tomorrow, and we could sort of call that the controlling speed of the race. And but even so, there's a good chance he will clear this other horse. And and they tend to suit the track up for the big race, and so it's going to be riding fast. And I'm sure, as you can probably tell.
If we know anything about Louisville and Churchill Downs, the forecast is unpredictable. It's like rained in 50% of the Kentucky Derbies all time. Like today, the forecast is signaling cloudy, little chance of rain. Mm-hmm. Who knows what's going to happen? I think it was back in 2018 with Justify. Wasn't it like pouring, like absolutely pouring? It was one of those. Yeah, because I remember watching that Derby from there, and my hat was like literally soaking wet, just like in my face. I had to like lift it up just to watch the race. But that was crazy. How does the weather affect your picks, knowing it's either going to be, dry or wet in situations like that? Because the race kind of plays out differently depending on that.
Yeah, of course. And I was just thinking of Justify, where he sort of jumped out and went forward, and he didn't lead from the start, but he was always up there. So he kind of got out of the mud. But you look at a year like, there's a horse called Mind That Bird who won on it when it was a sloppy track, and he was out the back. He was he was virtually detached from the field and just hugged the rail under Calvin Burrell and came through and won. So you couldn't necessarily say, it favours speed, it favours a closer. I'm just going to focus on who I think is the best horse, and most of the best horses tend to handle wet tracks. And the other thing as well is it's just not enough evidence to go on at the moment. We couldn't say that one horse handles it and another doesn't, because it's not many of them have raced on it. And as you say, the weather's unpredictable. It's forecast to be dry at the moment. There'll probably be a shower 20 minutes before the off. That tends to be the way it works.
Totally. It always happens.
It's not going to put me off at all, the forecast. So
yeah, it's every time I think of weather affecting a Kentucky Derby, I think of the Seinfeld episode with Kramer. His mother was a mutter. His mother was a mother. His father was a mutter. I apologize if there's no Seinfeld fans watching. You might not get that joke. All right. So Baffert, again, it's such a strange situation, because anytime I'm betting on a Kentucky Derby, Ron, Bob Baffert's horses go right to the top of my list. And again, he's not going to physically be there, but it's kind of like a manager in baseball submitting the lineup card and handing it to the assistant manager and saying, just don't screw it up. That to me is what this situation is with Bob Baffert today. His other horse, which is also on your list, Taiba, I'm sorry if I don't pronounce that correctly, but you'd like to kind of play those two together in what's called an exacta box, which can be a little probably confusing.
Love an exacta box.
Exactly. So explain what an exacta box is first, and then tell me why you're putting Taiba with Messier as your top two horses in this race.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, as if finding the winner of a 20-runner race wasn't hard enough, we're also trying to find the second with the exacta box. So that basically is the first and the first. So that's the first and the second, and when you can just do a straight exacta. So you could say Messier to beat Tabor, and that would just be a straight up exacta. When you box the two together, it means they can finish in any order. So if Tabor wins and Messier's second, then you still get your payout. And it kind of, the odds will, you won't necessarily know how much you're going to get because you have to wait to see how much money's in the pool and so on, and then you get you get the share of the pool. But it can be it's a good way of sort of boosting your potential profits, because rather than just getting a straight up win bet on one of the two, which might pay 6-7 to 1 or something like that, if you get the two of them and they do finish first and second, you're going to be looking at sort of rewarding odds. I don't know exactly, 20-30 to 1 or something like that. So it's worth a shot. And the reason even in such a big field, the reason I think this is worth a play is because these two are obviously come from the same barn, but they also come from the same race. So Messier was favourite to win the Santa Anita Derby. He got upstaged by Tabor on the day. Tabor came through off just the back of a maiden win and beat Messier. So I think there were mitigating circumstances that day. Messier, surprisingly, I was watching it back just this morning. He didn't make a great start out of the gates. He sort of missed a length or two. And I just went back and double checked his race before that just to make sure this isn't a trait of his. And because we need him to come out the gates today, we need him to come out running. And the time before he flew out, so I'm not concerned. I think that was a one-off. Horses can just have a bad day out the gates. I've watched his previous run before that. He'll be fine, I'm sure. But on the day, he sort of fluffed his lines a little bit. He'd been off for 2 months, so I think he was a bit rusty. He probably wasn't fully tuned up. And after that sort of slow beginning, he was rushed up to contest the lead with a good horse who a sprinting type basically, and they kind of went at it for a little bit, and the sprinting horse dropped out the back of the screen. He finished last. Messier was still there into the straight. He still led into the straight. Tabor had to work to get past him, and Tabor did eventually get on top. Messier finished second, but all considered, it was a big run from Messier. Off the back of that 2-month break, a slow start, and then doing too much up front with a horse who isn't going to be running these kind of distances. All told, it was a good run. Medina Spirit, who was first past the post last year, he was only second in that same Santa Anita Derby. So I think I'm not concerned about him getting beaten in that. It was just a prep race. So I see Messier bettering that form today. But yeah, so go back to the reason for the exacta bet is because the horse that beat him was Tabor. The race returned very good speed figures, and much better than any other horses in the field have achieved. So you've kind of got the two standouts on the clock. They're from the same barn. I think they're both going to show up, and I don't think there'll be a lot between them. I fancy Messier to get his own back today, but I think Tabor's inexperience puts me off. He's only had 2 starts, and we talk about the 20 runners, and you've kind of got to be survival of the fittest kind of thing. He could get. He could find himself in a bit of a culture shock. He's drawn in the middle of the pack as well, so he might get bumped around a little bit. Whereas Messier's got that speed to kind of go. Tabor is going to probably stalk them and have to figure out a bit of a trip. But I do think he'll be running at the end like he was at Santa Anita, and I just don't. They're very similar horses in terms of ability, and they've got a bit of an edge on the field in terms of class. So you're kind of thinking, well, if you fancy one, you've got to fancy the other. So if therefore it makes sense, the exacta bet makes sense to me.
Totally.
I think it's a good play. Yeah.
Totally. I like it. And before we let you go, Ron, one more question from the chat, actually. Kevin wants to know your thoughts about White Arboreo's chances. If I said that wrong, I'm so sorry. White Arboreo? Is that how you say it?
That's names.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, White Arboreo. I think I'm not sure. I'm terrible at pronouncing horse names, so I won't.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
probably pretty tough. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it, Ron. Just roll with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, make it happen.
We'll just call it the number 15 horse. That's always easier.
There you go.
Yeah, I think he's got a chance. I mean, we're talking about speed figures there for the two I like. This horse doesn't match up the same on speed figures, and you kind of, especially in dirt racing, you kind of, well, certainly I live and die by the speed figures. They're the best guide. The races on dirt are so truly run that the best horses, whether you can run fast or not, it's going to be able to. The clock will tell you. And this horse hasn't run a fast race yet. There have been a couple of reasons why. He won his first prep race this year off the back of an interrupted sort of, training schedule, and so therefore you give him a pass there. You think, well, fair play, he did well to win, even though he didn't record a great time. He then won the Florida Derby last time, and I expected better when I looked at the speed figures. It wasn't great again, and not only that, but there was another horse in the race, a horse called Charge It, who finished second. Charge It would have beaten White Arboreo that day had he run straight. Charge It was green, and he was lugging left down the lane, and had the jockey been able to straighten him out, I think he'd have run past White Arboreo. Both of those are open to improvement. I'm not saying White Arboreo can't win. He can improve, and this time of year the horses are going to be improving at different rates, so the horses can make a sudden jump up. It's 35 days on from the Florida Derby, so I mean he could easily make a jump up. I'm more interested in fact, just with a view to the Belmont Stakes, as I mentioned, the horse runner-up Charge It, the horse that finished second in that race. He's learning all the time, and I think he'll step forward again today. Today will be a good experience for him, and he's just going to stay forever. So one to keep in mind for the Belmont Stakes. I'll be watching him closely with that race in mind. But I'm focused solely on the two from the Santa Anita race, and just watching one or two others with a view to the future. But
real quick, Ron, I count 12 horses at 20 to 1 or longer. Is there one long shot that you say, hey, these speed figures are intriguing? Maybe there's other factors that obviously make them a long shot, but the speed figures, maybe one of these 20 or 30 to 1s catch your eye a little bit.
Yeah, there's a horse called Simplification. He comes from that same Florida Derby. So on one hand, I'm kind of knocking it. The reason being, outside of those two Santa Anita horses I keep mentioning, nothing has recorded a particularly good time. So you kind of got a whole bunch of them. So therefore, even the Florida Derby hasn't thrown a great time. Simplification was third in the Florida Derby, and he had far too much. They rode him far too handily. He's previously shown his best form, sort of closing, being a late running type, and for one reason or another, they jumped him out at Gulfstream, and he pressed a really fast pace, and he fell away. When I say he fell away, he still finished third. He went a favourite for that race as well, so he was favourite ahead of the two he just mentioned, White Barrio and also Charge It. He faded to third, but he was only beaten just over 2 lengths, and I'm expecting a completely different ride this time. I think they'll revert to the waiting tactics on him. And I think the only way a horse like Simplification or some of these others who don't have the great speed figures, the only way they win today is if the leaders, so a horse like Messier and one or two others, they get involved in a bit of a pace war and there's just a complete pace meltdown. And that sometimes happens. I mean, if that happens, I want a horse like Simplification running for me to kind of pick up the pieces and knowing that, well, not knowing, but, believing that they will switch to those waiting tactics. I think they're going to have to go find this horse just one run off the turn, and if the leaders come back, he's got a shot. But outside of the two, I like. There's a whole heap of them. Take your pick, because as you say, there's a load of them at 20 to 1 or bigger. If you go back to the sort of like liking the name of a horse, you might as well just almost just pick a name you like. Because once you get into that, it's who gets the best trip, and there's a few of them that are really closely matched. So.
Ron, we so appreciate you taking your time. Get some coffee in you, because you got a long day ahead of you watching the Derby all the way from Spain. That's Ron Wood from the Racing Post in the UK. Thank you for taking your time.
Cheers. Enjoyed it. Thanks. Good to speak.
In the UK. Okay, let's bring AG back in here. Alex Glaze, missed ya. How have you been?
Oh, man. It's been rough. I got put on the shelf for a little bit, but I'm happy to be back.
Do you make any Derby bets while we were hanging? I mean, you got some.
Ironically, no, I did not make any Derby bets. Not my thing. I was looking to make an F1 bet, so I was looking at some of the things on the table for tomorrow's Miami Grand Prix.
That's a big deal. Funny thing about the Derby, there's two things about the Derby that I love. First of all, the races start like right now. There's 11 races today.
Yeah, they're all day.
They're all day. And secondly, again, I should have, this is on me, Justin. We should have had a fun game at the top with some of these names. So, Tiz the Bomb, Cyberknife, Pioneer of Medina, Summer is Tomorrow. I mean, some of these names are just classic. AG, I feel like the Bomb, you would bet on him, and Summer is Tomorrow. That seems like a Lauren horse. That's a Lauren horse.
Oh, see, you got it all wrong. Yeah. Summer is Tomorrow. That's me. That's
you. What about? I don't see any golf.
That's what he wants. Here. Is there anything that has to do with golfing? Go low
Charge
today,
it
or anything like that?
Charge it.
Go low. Let's go. Let's go low. If I had a horse, let's go low.
Yes. I was thinking Tiz the Bomb because you're bombing it off the tee, Alex. That was my thought there.
I'm trying. Oh, well, if we're gonna go with like what my drive is like, it's Tiz the Hook. That would be my horse.
Tiz the Hook.
Mine would be more like Tiz the Slice. So you know what?
Tiz the Slice.
that could also go with pizza, because I consider myself a pepperoni pizza connoisseur.
Oh,
so you know what?
Good.
It could go either way. We could talk about my.
There are some tremendous horses. Honestly, if you like, I thought about this before. Like, what would I name my horse? I don't know.
I
on the spot, I'm terrible with this. Bad Betch. At least it's not Bad Bets, and then we're good.
Add the CH on there. Speaking of something we don't want to see being bad batches tonight are some of the NBA teams that we're betting on. How about that for a transition? The 76ers kept their hopes alive in Game 3. Joel Embiid was back. They beat the Heat by 20. They held the Heat to 79 points. And then you had the Suns and the Mavs. Scal called it. The Mavs did the same. They kept their hopes alive. They beat the Suns 103-94 at home. Today we move on to other games. We got the Celtics taking on the Bucks tonight. The spread right now set at 2. The over-under set at 213. So Alex, I'll come to you first. How are you betting this game? And do you expect the Celtics to take a series lead or the Bucks to take a series lead tonight?
Man, this is a weird series, right? Because it's like Game 1, the Bucks came out and hammered the Celtics. Game 2, the Celtics came out and hammered the Bucks. And I mean, there's no way that the Celtics come out and shoot the way that they did in Game 2 again, especially on the road. I don't think you can expect that. I do think we're going to see a little bit more offense today, which is why I'm looking at my play for this game. You know, I love a good prop here. Jason Tatum over 5.5 assists at -132 on FanDuel. I'm looking at this, and you get the value on FanDuel, so definitely shop around for this because on DraftKings it's -150, so definitely make sure you're getting the best price when you're looking at this prop. I mean, I've said this before. I mean, I feel like I've given this prop out like 3 or 4 straight shows with these Celtics games. And I'm just going to keep playing the hits. You know, he's hit this in 5 of 6 playoff games, 12 of the last 15 games. The one argument you could probably make for this prop today is the Celtics going on the road, right? And we saw this last night with the Heat on the road, right? For as dominant as they looked in that series, aside from Jimmy Butler, none of the Heat role players showed up, right? So where's the offense going to come from? I'm looking at the Celtics team. They have so much more playoff experience. I'm not expecting that to be a factor at all. This is a veteran team, has a lot of guys that have been there, done that. They're not going to be rattled by the road environment here. So I think Tatum's going to be able to clear that 5.5 assists number once again. And if they're going to keep giving me 5.5 assists, I'm going to keep taking it. So that's my play for this game.
I like it. Jared, you're betting it a little bit differently. You have the total, and I have the spread. So all 3 of us are betting this game, but we're all betting it differently. Jared, why do you like the over in this spot?
Spread, prop, total. We got the whole kit and caboodle covered today.
The whole gambit.
I think Alex is right. I do think this is going to be more of an offensive game. Let me read you an excerpt from, first of all, I mean, could Scal have nailed that Mavericks Suns game any better last night? Luka over assists, Luka under points, Mavericks win the game. And nobody was betting the Mavericks last night except us and this show. So to me, I think you just got to go back to the well with Jason Tatum. We're going back to the well with our NBA expert. And Scal, I'll read you the excerpt from his best bets column that is on Pickswise.com right now. Quote, we've had 2 atrocious offensive performances in this series, one by Milwaukee, one by Boston. Look for both teams to have a great offensive game here. Series is due for a breakout. I agree. We've had 2 early games in what I think is going to be a 7-game series. And it's 2 prize fighters in the early rounds kind of feeling each other out. Now the series shifts back to Milwaukee. We've had 1 amazing offensive performance by Milwaukee and 1 dud. Same thing for Boston. It's too small of a sample size in the 2 games to say that both teams are going to perform exactly like they did in those 2 games. I think these offenses are going to, extend their wings just a little bit. And to me, a total, I got 212.5 over at DraftKings right now. This total's not even in the 2 teens, which if you watch NBA basketball in this day and age, that is a very, very low total, especially for a team like Milwaukee that is a high-octane offense. I know both defenses have looked good, but again, early stages of what should be a long series, both coaches are trying to find the right buttons to push. So I think this is going to be more of a wide-open game. I'm trusting Scal's handicap, and I'm going to go over 212.5. To me, that's probably the safest bet on the board today based off of where I think the game flow could be.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, actually. I think it's going to be an extremely offensive game. The only thing is Giannis needs to figure out Grant Williams and Al Horford because they had a way better defensive game plan against him in Game 2 than they did in Game 1. Also, Boston hit 23-pointers in Game 2. We've seen extremes from both teams at this point. For this game, I like Boston with +2 in this spot. And I already have my futures bet. You said, Jared, that you think this series is going to go to 7. I already have my futures bet that I placed on FanDuel that this series is going to go to 7 games, that the Celtics are going to win 4-3 in the series. So that's still going strong at this point. So for me, Brown had a great game 2 after a horrible game 1. They also got really good bench production. Grant Williams at 21 points, 6 made threes. They figured out Giannis, Grant Williams, and Al Horford did. They had a better game plan defensively. And then I look at their spreads on the road. The Celtics on the road have gone 27-16 against the spread this season, 10-1 against the spread in their last 11 games dating back to March 9th. They thrive in hostile territory. Now, the Bucks haven't necessarily been as dominant at home in recent years. This past year, 18-26 against the spread on the season. Chris Middleton's still out. You could see how they missed him during game 2. I think the Celtics still have the advantage here with the adjustments that they made defensively in game 2. Smart is probably going to be back in the lineup for the Celtics. They had 3 days off in between games. I think that favors Boston a little bit more because Smart will have time to get healthy. And also because I think Brown and Tatum, they've been nursing like little injuries, nagging injuries. So this is only their 3rd game that the Celtics have played in the last 12 days. They had some time to get back, get healthy. And then with Boston road splits and Bucks against the spread home record, a 6-point line movement for me from game 2 to game 3 is a lot. This game is closer to a pick'em, in my opinion, which I think favors Boston getting 2 points in this spot. So I like the Celtics +2 on the road against the Bucks. That's how I'm betting this game. We got a spread. We got a total.
Down to 1.5 on FanDuel right now. So.
Everyone's on the Bucks too tonight. So I'm looking at the splits at MGM. Similar to last night where everybody was on Phoenix. Everybody's on Milwaukee tonight. I'm seeing 83% of the bets, 82% of the handle on the Bucks. And what did Alex just say? The line just moved in favor of Boston. Wink, wink. Again, to me, that is a clear indicator of you don't bet Milwaukee in this game. If you bet the Celtics, that's fine. That's what we like to call the contrarian play, right, Lauren? The contrarian play.
You love to see it. Also, it was so funny. My dad texted me earlier today, and I sent this to Jared too. My dad texted me earlier, and he goes, "Tell Jared the stock market equivalent of contrarian is called the odd lot theory. Investors who buy less than 100 shares are usually wrong." I love my dad.
I would call myself an odd lot. I am an odd lot. Also, Justin spelled contrarian wrong in our chat. Remember I had Lauren try to spell contrarian yesterday.
Oh, there's no chance I'm actually going to spell it. We're never having a spelling bee on the show. Okay, the next game, Grizzlies taking on the Warriors. I'm actually not betting this game. Memphis was the best team during the season to cover the spread. They covered 64% of their games during the season. They're 5-3 against the spread during postseason, 3-0 in their last 3. John might come into this game with some momentum after dropping 47 points and a near triple-double. The Warriors back at home at Chase Center. It's a tough place to play. Alex, you're the only one out of the 3 of us with a bet on this game. How are you betting it and why?
Yeah, the Grizzlies looking good, right? Ja's feeling good, chirping Steph Curry. You know, everyone's ready to have some fun. And then you go to the Chase Center where dreams come to die. So I'm looking at this game. I'm going Warriors -3.5 first half. The Grizzlies led games 1 and 2 at half. So far, the Warriors have not won a first half yet. But I'm looking at this as a bounce back spot, as crazy as that sounds, for the Warriors, because they could not have played worse in game 2, right? I mean, I'm looking at these stats. They shot 18% from 3, 7 of 38. The Warriors shooting 27% from 3 so far in this series. They've been playing way below their potential. So I think that this is a spot with the Chase Center rocking. First half, they're going to come out shooting. You got Ja chirping Steph Curry. Not smart. So I think that this is going to be a big Steph game, which also leads to my second play for this game. Okay, so I'm looking at Steph Curry threes, right? And the standard prop is 3.5, and that is juiced crazy, -174. He's hit 3 threes in each playoff game this postseason. So if you want to lay that kind of juice, have fun with that. I want to have some fun with this. And I'm going Steph Curry 5 or more threes at +138. Hit 5 threes in game 1. Hit 5 threes in 2 games of that Nuggets series. And I'm looking at the volume, and the volume's there for Steph. He's averaging 11.5, almost 12 threes in this series. He's getting the shots up, and I just think that there's something about Ja chirping Steph. I mean, I know this is a little like storyline, narrative-y of me, but there's something about him chirping Steph that just doesn't sit right with my spirit. And I think that Steph's going to come out and remind – I like Ja, but I think he's going to remind the young fella whose league it is for now. And I think that Steph's going to come out and make a little bit of a statement here. Plus 138, I think is a good price for 5 or more threes from Steph.
It's Steph's league. We're just watching him.
I like the angle. I like the angle a lot. The one thing I'll add, it's kind of funny because, Alex, when you fish in those derivative markets, like the player made threes, the over-under is set at minus 174. But then if you scroll down to where you found that 4+, 5+ made threes, the 4+ made threes is minus 172. And again, exactly, it's the same bet. Over 3.5 minus 174.
It's the exact same bet. I just need one more three. I need
minus 172. It's weird how they price those markets differently, even though it's the exact same bet. So if you do want to make the 3.5 bet, you can save 2 cents by going to that market a little bit further down on the FanDuel list. It's weird. It's all
or
based
you can
off
have some fun and just wait for one more three. One more three, and
we want that extra
plus
three.
138.
I don't mind
Steph's
it.
league, we're just
I like the angle a lot. I think the angle makes sense. I do. You're right. He chirped them. You don't want to chirp Steph.
He chirped him. Yeah, Steph Curry ain't gonna take. Steph Curry's not gonna take that smoke. You know what I mean?
No. Yeah.
Steph Curry's gonna get away with the smoke. Okay, from court to ice. Court to ice. It doesn't work as well as boys to men, Alex. You know what I mean? Like, doesn't
have any more college.
No more college. I know. But we do have the overtime challenge for the NHL. Jared, walk us through quickly about how that's kind of been playing out for you at this point.
Woo. Overtime challenge is hurting right now. So 0-4 last night. Obviously, again, we've stressed this multiple times. Do not be betting full units on these. I'm tracking them for full units because it's a nice round number. We're betting 0.1 unit on each one. We're down 1 unit through the first 20 games. We're 2-18. Not great. That's surprising because, and again, last year's sample size was 26 out of 84, which is about 31%. Does that mean this year is going to hit at 31%? Of course not. That's why we're tracking it. It's an experiment. But for that to get back to par, we need to hit 24 out of the next 66, which is about 36%. So again, I would say at this stage, 20 games into about a 90-game sample size, depending on, how many games finish. It might not be 84. It might be more or less, depending on how long the series go. I would say the odds of being profitable with this is probably slim, but that doesn't mean we're going to stop doing it because I'm curious. I want to see what the final number is at the end of the rainbow. So we'll do it again tonight. Again, the best odds that I'm finding for these are at Caesars. So if you want to participate with me, I have $10 on all 4 again tonight. We'll go to Caesars and drop the numbers. They're pretty good again. Again, all of them are over 3-1, which means we only need 1 game to go to overtime tonight for us to turn a profit. I know that sounds easy, but clearly that hasn't been the case so far because we've had 3 out of the 5 days with no overtime games. So hopefully it changes tonight. I think at some point we're going to have a day with 2 or 3 overtime games, which means we just have to stay consistent and hope that we'll get a little craziness at some point and we'll, boost up the numbers. But right now, I'll do one of these for the overtime challenge because I haven't had a lot of overtime games so far yet this postseason. Average margin of victory, 3.1. It's pretty high, don't you think, Lauren? You've covered a lot of postseason hockey.
That is pretty high. Honestly, 3.15 goals. Speaking of goals being scored, that's one of my best bets today. Not my best bet. I have 2 good bets today for the NHL. One of them is my best bet. I'm going to save that for a second. We have 4 games on the slate tonight, starting with the Panthers, Ice Caps, starting at 1 p.m. Then we have the Avs, Preds, 4:30 Eastern time. Then we got some late night evening games. So my one best bet is the Stars Flames game. I'm going to save that. But my other one, I'm going back to the well with the Avs, Preds. Over 6.5 at minus 115. I got that on FanDuel. Last game it didn't hit because Connor Ingram came out of freaking left field, 3rd string goalie for the Nashville Predators. No one's even heard of this guy, and he made 48 freaking saves. Who is he? Who the heck is this guy? The Avs put 50 shots on goal. 50 shots on goal. And this dude, third string goalie, his first ever postseason start, his fourth NHL career start, and he made 48 saves. He did all that he could do to put Preds in a position to win that game. They're now down 2-0 in the series. They're going back to Bridgestone Arena. They need more production from Tanner Jeannot, their rookie. He had 24 goals during the regular season. He led all rookies in the league. He hasn't found the net a single time in the last 14 games. This has been building, though, in Colorado, the Stanley Cup. They are stacked. They are ready to lift Lord Stanley at the end of the year. That's why I have my futures bet on them to win the Stanley Cup, even though they're the favorites, okay? They have 4 players in the top 20 scoring this season. 6 players scored in the first 2 games. Nathan McKinnon had 3. Cale Makar had 2 goals. I love the over in this spot. The Preds are going to get it going a little bit. A guy like Tanner Jeannot is going to be able to find the back of the net. And then I think here in Game 3, we're going to see a lot of what we saw from the Avs in Game 1. The Avs lost the last 4 road games of the regular season, but they wanted to leave a little bit of gas in the tank to head into postseason. UC Saros is questionable at this point for Game 3. Nobody can play better, though, than Ingram did, and I don't think that he's going to have the game that he did in Game 2. Like, that was wildly phenomenal. There's not good value betting the Avs money line because it's minus 245. You're not really making money. That's laying a lot for Avs money line because I obviously think they're going to win this game. This is going to be similar to Game 1. We're going to see lots of offensive firepower. The last 2 times at Bridgestone Arena between these 2 teams this year, the total has gone over. Nashville's going to want to get their offense rolling a little bit more. The Avs already have the offensive firepower. Connor Ingram's not going to show up the way that he did. And if UC Saros is in, he's been injured for a little while. Who knows? We'll see how he shows up. But I think the Avs are going to get rolling on the offensive side. Over 6.5. The other hockey bet that we have, Alex, you like a prop. I love these prop bets that you're making.
Okay, so I don't think I've given out a hockey prop bet yet.
I don't think so
my
either.
first one. So this is my first one. I just saw it, and it kind of jumped out to me a little bit here. Looking at our Ice Cats, Barkov, over 2.5 shots. Minus 140. Gone over this number in each of the first 2 games. And for the Panthers' last 5 games of the regular season. So I'm looking at that. And I mean, he's on the road today. I just think that I'm feeling pretty good about that one. But my, I want to say risky play, a little bit risky here. I'm feeling the Pens today, guys. How are we feeling about the Pens at even money? All right, we're not.
I mean, that's a personal choice. In terms of a bet, they're a home dog and nobody's betting them, so I won't say the C word.
Dog,
it's a contrarian play.
To be fair, I was on the Rangers in Game 2, so it's kind of like I mean, clearly just have no dog in this fight. I'm just kind of picking what I feel here. Shesterkin been playing out of his mind, right? Incredible for the Rangers. But actually, like, guys, the Penguins, it feels like they've dominated this series, right? Like, they dominated Game 2, even though they didn't get the results, but they've just been really dominant, as weird as that sounds. They more than doubled the Rangers in expected goals and produced 18 high-danger scoring chances in Game 2. 47, I can't read today, 47-19 advantage in high-danger chances through 2 games in this series. We got the Pens on home ice. The big question is, can Louis Domingue step up, right? Like, I don't know what was going on with that dude, but I think he's had a couple days to kind of regroup here. You know, we got the news of Casey DeSmith with core muscle surgery, going to be out for the rest of the playoffs here. It just feels like everyone's on the Rangers. I think there's a little bit of value here with this Pens team here, but a big question mark, can Louis Domingue step up? I don't know, but I like this as a bounce-back spot for the Pens at home.
I bet those last 2 games, and I bet the Rangers 3-way money line. I obviously lost the first one with the triple overtime, but that was a fun game to watch, and I won the second one. I'm just laying off of this game today. I'm just excited to watch it. I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see how it goes, but I'm looking forward to seeing these teams play back in Pittsburgh just to see how the Pens show up and to see how Igor Shesterkin shows up in this game. It's going to be super, super fun to watch. Okay, before we get into our best bets of the day, quickly, Jared, Pickswise.com. Who do we got for our 3-star play of the day?
Good question. Got a couple on here, actually. Tyler Mortimer is hooking up with the total in the Flames and Stars game. We haven't talked about that series much, but if you are familiar with our preseason or our pre-postseason hockey vibes, you know that I've got a pretty big future on the Flames at 20-1. I'll be very watching that game very intently later tonight. So it's actually an interesting day in the NHL because we have 3 series tied at 1, game 3.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this, prior, Lauren, that game 3 tends to be the deciding game in a tie series. That usually tells you who's going to win the series. That's what the odds and the history has said. So big day in the hockey world. But Tyler Mortimer has a total play in the Flames and the Stars.
Cool.
Check it out. Over.
Pickswise.com. Go read about why. Speaking of the Stars-Flames game, that's actually my best bet of the day is the Stars money line. Sorry to your future, Jared. The Flames won game 1, 1-0. Then they lost 2-0 in the second game. They've been extremely low-scoring games. With the Stars game 2 win, they snapped a 3-game losing streak against the Flames. Now, Calgary ranked 7th in the NHL this season in goals scored per game. They've been shut down by the Stars. Gritty defense. Jake Ottinger has been playing amazing. Thursday's loss was the first time they were shut out in the postseason since 2016. They've only scored 3 total even strength goals in their last 4 overall games. Now, Jacob Markstrom has been solid in net. He's stopped 37 of 38 shots in the series, and he's held opponents to 2 or fewer goals in 5 of the last 6 games. But the top line of Elias Lindholm, Johnny Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey, and Matthew Tkachuk need to get more offensive opportunities. They scored 124 goals combined during the regular season. They've only had 8 total shots on goal during the first 2 games of this series. 5 total even strength goals over the last 5 games. That ain't great. This is not the right time for their offense to be getting in a slump. Now, the Stars have a defensive first game plan. They're sacrificing bodies, and they need to because their offense only has 39 shots on goal through the entire series. You look at game 2, they blocked 20 shots in Thursday's win. Jake Ottinger has been amazing. He stopped 53 of 54 shots so far in the series. He's only allowed 1 goal. And he helped the Stars get to a 27-10-4 home record this season. He's only allowed 2 goals per game during a 5-1-0 run over his last 6 home starts. Now, the Flames are going to have a hard time dictating the pace. We've seen that through the first 2 games. Obviously, that's why they haven't been able to get their offense rolling. Dallas now is back at home. It's a tough place to play. They're going to play good defense in front of a home crowd. I think they're going to take the series lead today, and I think they're going to do it in regulation. So I like the Stars money line at plus 138. They've played really well at home this season, and this ain't the right time for the Flames offense to be slumping, which at this point they are. Lock it in. Stars money line plus 138. Sorry to your future, Jared. Alex, who do you have for your best bet of the day?
Okay. As much as I want to make my best bet of the day, Steph Curry's threes.
You should. Come on. 5+.
Should I? Should I though?
Absolutely. No, do whatever you want.
No, I'm gonna play the hits. This one's gonna.
All right, that's fair.
I'm gonna just play the hits here. Jason Tatum over 5.5 assists, minus 132 on FanDuel. He's hit this in 5 of 6 playoff games, 12 of his last 15 games. I have no idea why the books keep on giving us this number. Tatum, there's very little reason to believe that he's not going to be able to get 6 or more assists in this game. The question you can ask yourself, will the Celtics role players be able to step up? We saw last night some role players for the Heat and the road. It's a little bit of a different environment than playing at home, but this is a veteran Celtics team. Not going to have any trouble on the road in a very hostile Milwaukee Bucks home arena. But I'm banking on Jason Tatum to have a big game today and get 6 or more assists.
Tatum over 5.5 assists. Jared, you're back to the well, too, with the total in this game.
Scal. Let's go. Let's stay hot, Scal. Again, for those that have followed the show all year, I don't give out a ton of NBA bets. It's not my most favorite league to bet on. The postseason is a little bit different, but I like to get intel and analysis from people that have been on the ground level fighting these battles. And the intel that we keep getting from Scal has been very positive for us so far in this postseason. So I am not going to look to gift horse in the mouth on Derby Day and go away from this very contrarian play because everyone's betting the under. Why wouldn't they? We've had 2 unders so far in this series, but I think today is going to be an over day. And in fact, the total keeps dropping at DraftKings. I got in at 212.5 this morning. It is now a flat 212. keep giving me that closing line equity. Keep buying the over. I would continue to play it because I think we've seen two really disjointed games in Boston. And I think in Milwaukee today, we're going to have more flow, more rhythm. We're going to see a little bit more of a wide open game. The coaches who are very good at making adjustments have had 2 games to kind of digest what they've seen. And again, 212 is not a very high total in NBA standards, especially for a team like the Bucks. Shoot a ton of threes and get up and down very fast with a guy like Giannis, who can basically be a point forward and dunk it like 5 steps away from the basket. So to me, I think this is a game that is going to have a little more pace and tempo to it. And I like the idea of buying low on an over that has been dropping like a rock. So we're going to go over. I'll be graded 212.5. But right now, at this exact moment, you can get a 212 over at DraftKings. We're going to the over. Come on, Scal. Don't let us down today.
No undersweats here. No undersweats here. And speaking of over, we're over on our time for the show. So that's it for us today. Find us on the Pickswise YouTube channel. Go to Pickswise.com. Follow us on Twitter. Alex Glaze, Jared Smith. I'm Lauren Jabara. Best of luck tonight, you guys. See you tomorrow. Let's get it. Let's bet it. Derby day.